You can see my screen, right? Yeah, very good. Hopefully the connections will be okay and everything. Otherwise, I have to turn on my hotspot. But let's pray everything goes well. Okay. So again, wish you all a very, very happy New Year. May this New Year bring a lot of blessings, love, peace, prosperity, of course, but wishing everyone a very happy New Year. So let's get started.
Wish you the same, Sunita.
Thank you. Thank you, Geeta.
To everyone. To everyone.
To everyone. Oh. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavatam Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Britavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandathami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetamritaduhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavaha Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dugdham Geetamritam Mahat Vasudev Vasudam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishmadrona Data Jayatra Dajala Gandharani Lotpala Shalyagrahavati Kripena Vahani Karnena Vela Kula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Sotirna Khalu Pandavai Rananadi Kaivatra Kakeshavaha Parasharyavacha Saroja Mamalam Geetartha Gandhotkatam Nanakyanaka Kesaram Harikadaha Sambodhana Bodhitam Loke Sajjana Shatpadaira Haraha Pepiyamanam Mudam Bhuyad Bharata Pankajam Kalimala Pradvamsina Shreyase Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Sunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramopanisadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyana Vastita Datkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam Navidhusura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyah mokshayishyami ma shuchah. So I chanted the whole Bhagavad Gita Dhyanam because we are starting again a new chapter. So we are starting a brand new chapter. And what is interesting is we are at almost the halfway mark of Bhagavad Gita. You know, we are in the 9th chapter. There are 18 chapters. And Gita, you know, of course, we know is one of the most influential books in our Eastern philosophy. I mean, it is the eternal message of eternal spiritual wisdom. And as we know, Gita means a song, and Bhagavad Gita means the song of the Lord. And here it is the song of Lord Krishna, who is helping us mold our own personalities, which we have carried through so far. He's molding our personality to an extent that finally he's going to tell us that there is no such thing as personality. We all are beyond our personalities, you know. But for that, we need somebody like Arjuna. You know, we are all that Arjunas. And if Krishna were to talk directly to us, you know, we may not listen. It's always, you know, like children when they go to school, right? If the teacher is telling the child, you should do this, you should do that, the child will immediately, you know, may not necessarily take it. But if the teacher was telling his own best friend and telling him that, oh, you know, if you do this, this will be good for you or whatever, the child may say, oh, maybe, you know, I want to be like my friend. I also want to learn this. I also want to do well. So something like that, you know, because Krishna is telling Arjuna, and if we can put ourselves in Arjuna's shoes, whatever is being told to Arjuna is actually being told to us. So that's how this whole Bhagavad Gita has been so beautifully structured, where we have Krishna telling Arjuna about this wonderful truth or wisdom or values or advice, however way we might look at it. And the whole idea is ultimately Krishna is telling Arjuna, you know, you can do it. You can reshape yourself. I mean, this is 2024, New Year, and you can reshape yourself by conquering all the negativities, all the weaknesses, everything within yourself. All you have to do is use your own willpower, and that willpower is powered by that Supreme Lord. And who is that Supreme Lord? It is that Supreme Lord is everywhere. So with that power, we can do that. So that is how he's starting. And it is winter time. I know. So, you know, if you can conquer that cold and heat. So just like that, you know, we conquer in a mind level anything which we think is giving us happiness, pleasure, I would say, not happiness, pleasure. And if I can have a hold on that part of it, and at my intellect level, if I can hold on to, it doesn't matter whether people praise me or people blame me, if I can capture or, you know, reshape myself by capturing, you know, by capturing the essence of the teaching and applying to situations at my body level, at my mind level, at my intellect level, I'm already rising up to higher heights. And that's what, you know, Bhagavad Gita is telling us. And I thought I'll just offer that as a small introduction to what is Bhagavad Gita to remind ourselves. Because this shloka, Sukha Dukhe Same Kritva, Labha Labho, Jaya Jayo, you know, that comes already in the 2nd chapter. So it is just a reminder of how Bhagavad Gita is really helping us. So this chapter that we are getting into, which is chapter number 9, it is called as Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam. Raja Vidya. Raja means king, and Vidya means knowledge or science, as it's said here. And Raja Guhyam. Guhyam, it's a secret. So do you remember where else in which chapter we talked about a secret as the first verse? It came in the fourth chapter, so there also he kind of refers to it. But here we'll really understand why he's calling it a secret. Does it mean it's not available for everyone? So we will discuss that. But chapter 9 falls under the second half of second of the three parts of Bhagavad Gita. So the first part of six chapters is about me, Me, when we say that's the Tattvam Asi, right? Tattvam means you, but here you is who's you? It's we in an individual sense. And how are we connected to the entire world, entire thing is the Tat part of it. Tat refers to that or that Lord, And to indicate that I am no different than Lord is what the last part of it comes to, which is that Asi part of it, which is from the 13th chapter onwards. So the first half is about me and why that is important. So that is where the Karma Kanda portion came about what is the sadhana in the first part of it, which helps me to purify my mind. Only when I purify my mind can I actually see my connection with others. Otherwise, it is always me, So that's why the first 6 chapters is about me and helping me to cleanse myself, which ended with the 6th chapter of meditation. Now, from 7th chapter on, we're talking about Tat. And in 7th chapter, we were introduced into this aspect of religion and really slowly building ourselves to a devotion, looking up to somebody, looking up. So this is where we saw the description of that Lord in 2 forms, this para prakriti and apara prakriti. Para prakriti is that absolute. Apara prakriti is the world in which we live in. It is that same Lord in the form of names and forms, That is what we saw in the 7th chapter. In the 8th chapter, it was a little kind of a slight deviation because Arjuna had all those questions. And in 7th chapter itself, Krishna could have just taken us from that apara prakriti to the para prakriti. But then Arjuna asked this question, so what happens, I'm this body and everything, but when I die, when I really directly go to the para prakriti, that's the kind of question he's asked. Not direct, not the way exactly I said it, but you would think that that's the flow, but that's where the deviation slightly happens, where in 8th chapter, you have Krishna explaining to Arjuna about, how that the soul, if you will, I don't want to use the word exactly the soul, but the Sukshma Sharira or the subtle body of ours, when it exits out of the body, what happens to the journey, So we talked about all that in the 8th chapter. So then in 9th chapter, now it is, it's actually one of the most important chapters, Of course, every chapter we say is very important, or some chapters we say it's very beautiful and everything. But in this chapter, he is really taking off from where he left off in the 7th chapter. In the 7th chapter, he talked about really what spirituality and religion is. And in the 8th chapter, of course, he talked about the relevance of our present life, how it leads to the future life and everything. But in the 9th chapter, he takes us to the purpose or, telling us what the kind of, how we have to get out of this world. So that is where, so what I thought for now, for today is give you a glimpse of the 9th chapter through the shlokas, so there are about 34 shlokas. And in this 34 shlokas, you will see how, he has basically taken us, he's taking us through explaining why this knowledge is needed and why this knowledge is considered as a secret. And from there on, so he does that. So he first starts to say how this knowledge, the Vidya, for example, is actually nothing but its total devotion to that Ishvara. So in 8th chapter, he had talked about really who is Ishvara, and basically we talked about the Krama Mukti and everything. So here he talks about how that knowledge or devotion is very necessary, and he also says it's the easiest way for obtaining our ultimate goal, which is that moksha. So this knowledge, he starts to say that it is ultimately that Ishvara, that Brahman in the form of Ishvara, which is a Saguna Brahman, is actually the cause for the whole universe. Okay? Everything is nothing but Ishvara in different forms. I know we say Brahman in different forms, so Brahman is everywhere, right? But it's like this. If I say space is everywhere, okay, we are not able to immediately think about, oh, okay, I cannot see space. But the minute I put the walls around it, okay, then I say this is my bedroom space, or this is my living room space. This is my space outside the garden space. Then I'm able to kind of quantify that it's garden space, room space, etc. Right? So too, that is how we look at as Ishvara. Ishvara is the one which is the form, with form. So Ishvara in different forms is what we are seeing here. Okay. Now, we are not able to perceive that Ishvara exactly because we are too focused on very, very simple things. Okay. We are conditioned only to look at, a cup and a phone and a glass and everything. We are unable to give up that notion without the walls. I mean, like I said just now, if I ask you to think about space, I cannot think of space. Immediately, I have to have like the walls. Only then I can even think about that way. Just like, for example, uh, the sky, the sky is actually, when we look outside, on a clear day, it looks very blue, right? And but then there is no such thing as blue color. It is all the Raman effect, which gives you that sense of this. So too for us, our eyes have been so conditioned to look at all these objects as if it has got some form or a name and everything. And because of our conditioning so much, we are unable to give up that conditioning. It's sort of almost impossible for us. And that part of it is because of this whole, one may ask, why is it I'm just unable to give up the conditioning? Is because that conditioning itself is the Maya part of it. Our minds are just so, it's a very, very automatic thing. We are on autopilot all the time. And we are really stuck in this autopilot part of it. And we are just not able to get out of it, because all the time my actions are only directed towards these things which are kind of a conditioning, Without that conditioning part of it, I'm unable to do anything. And that part of it is where 9th chapter focuses upon, to talk about how do I give up that conditioning. So he starts with that aspect of royal secret. He gives that aspect here. Then he starts to say that this Ishvara, which is form, is actually everywhere, just like I said, space. It is the substratum. And then, like, for example, let's take the same example of space, Now, we think that the walls are conditioning the space, right? But in reality, actually, the walls are in space. Okay. Another example is the ocean. Okay. Ocean is all water. What do we say? We say, the bubbles contain the water. Okay, and the froth contains the water. But in reality, the bubble is in the water. The froth is in the water. And because of that, when the bubbles break or the froth, they break up, they go back to the water, right? So that is how we also have to start unconditioning our mind. Everything that I see as names and forms and everything, I have to break that up. And that part of it is where he comes to explain what is this Prakriti. Prakriti is that Maya part of it. Then then we talked about Brahman. What is the relation between this? All that will be covered up to here. Then he um, he says, I am largely unrecognized. Of course, right? We are not able to recognize that Ishvara because again, my mind is so focused on only the names and forms. It's like this, that one example that Guruji gives, like there was this man who had, all these beautiful idols of Rama, Sita, Hanuman, Lakshmana, and all these idols are made of gold, okay? And he takes this to the goldsmith. And first, he takes, I think he takes Hanuman. And so the goldsmith, gives him a certain amount of money for Hanuman. And then he takes the idol of Rama. So this goldsmith gives him much less money than Hanuman. And so this man is really offended. He's like, why is it that you gave me much less money? I mean, isn't Rama more, much more greater than Hanuman? So the goldsmith says, I care only about the gold. I don't care whether it's Hanuman or Rama. The point is the goldsmith is able to see only gold, even though you have uh, different forms of Rama and Hanuman, right? But for this man, he is so stuck with the fact that this form is Rama and this form is this one. So too, for all of us, we are not able to recognize, we are not able to go beyond the names and forms, So that part of it is all this, we'll talk about the 11, 12, which talks about that absolute Brahman, where an Ishvara, in this case, we are talking about Ishvara, because it's all about devotion here. And then we will talk about the two kind of devotees here. One, the prema bhakti, jnana bhakti, the different forms, different kind of devotees rather. And from there on, he describes two very clear distinctions between the devotees. One of them who performs things only with a certain desire, that is the Sakami Bhakta. And then Nishkami Bhakta is somebody who does completely without any desire. And then ultimately, Krishna says that, Ishvara always takes care of anybody, whoever comes to him. So you will see these beautiful shlokas in 9th chapter, we have the shloka of Patram, Phalam, Pushpam, Toyam. Whether you offer a fruit to me, whether you offer a leaf to me, how he's so happy, So it's all about pure devotion to Ishvara. So that's what this beautiful chapter is about. And then even this shloka, which is there in our Avantika in the background, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ye Jana Paryupasite, that shloka is also in this one here. So it is very, very beautiful. And then he finally says about how that Ishvara is not partial to anybody. Anybody can come to him. It can be even a murderer, a sinner, to a person of great, to a person who has a lot of attachment to the world, to finally a sage. Anybody can worship him in their lives, and there's no qualification at all that he brings in. And then finally, Krishna ends the chapter with one kind of an action for us, Ultimately, he will tell us, keep your mind only in me, perform all your actions with only me, and surrender to me. So this is finally, the whole chapter ends with that way. Okay, so that's just to give you a gist about the entire chapter of chapter 9. Any questions? Any thoughts? Any thing that you want to share? Was this kind of at least useful to give you an idea of what to expect, in this chapter 9, just to give you a complete overview? Okay.
Hari Om, yeah, it was very, very informative. And I want to know why you use this word royal, the royal secret. Or is there any specific reason?
Very excellent question. He actually starts in the first three shlokas itself. He'll be talking about why is it a secret, but then he calls this as a royal secret from a point of view of like a king, right? A king is considered to be the most a person who has complete access to anything and everything he wants, whether it's money, fame, everything, the king has that access to it. So that is why this is also a kingly secret. Everybody has an access to it. It is it is there for all of us. And that is why it is a kingly secret in that sense.
Okay. That's why you named it royal. Okay.
Yeah, it's a royal secret. Royal secret indicating that the availability for everyone. And it is the most of the secrets. So in fact, the first shloka will talk about it, So that what is that secret he's going to introduce in the very first three shlokas itself, And he will say that it is about understanding Ishvara Jnanam, and he will also explain this Ishvara as both the lower part of him and the higher part of him. Lower part of it indicate just like how in the 7th chapter, and that is why this is kind of a nice extension of the 7th chapter, because in 7th chapter we talked about para prakriti and apara prakriti, and here also he will talk about that Ishvara with attributes and Ishvara without attributes. And then he will also say about how, any of our personal gods, whether it is Krishna, Rama, Ganesha, anybody, they're all only forms of the higher power. That also he will say that. And anything which has forms, anything which has a name, anything which has a utility, okay? Starting with very, very simple, from the basic point of view, from, like I was saying, the phone, here today we, our younger generation worships the phone as gods, right? They are so stuck to 22 hours a day. You have to have not just phone now, of course, computer. I can say that I'm stuck to the computer most of the time. So in that sense, this is for us because it is actually a Vishwarupa for us. In the internet is a Vishwarupa, correct? So all the way from there to that Ishvara, which is a Vishwarupa, is also considered to be the lower form of God, okay? So to that extent, chapter 9 really tells you about it. So far, we need, of course, that highest form of the lower forms, so to speak, we are for us, we are transcending all the way from the phone part of it to that Ishvara, like Lord Venkateshwara, for example, who can fulfill any of my desires and who can also look for world peace, right? So that whole evolution is where we are working on. But here he's talking of that royal secret, which is to say that that power is even beyond that. Okay, so that part of it, he will come to that nirguna, nirvikara, nirvikalpa, that rupa, that attributeless, that is without formless, changeless consciousness is a higher power. So he talks about all that. But like I said, in chapter 9, being a devotion chapter, he'll focus a lot upon how we can develop that connection to that Ishvara. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So, as I said in chapter 9, he starts itself that first shloka with explaining about how we're living in this world which is so temporary and we are getting so attached to it. And he just uses one word for that. And just in the first shloka itself, there is so much he has packed in, He is packed in with regard to, what kind of a person should be kind of studying the Gita, and then what is the knowledge that we are really reading for, and what will it give us? Everything is there in the first shloka itself. Okay. So, like I said, in the verse 1 to 3, he actually introduces the subject matter, which is Ishvara Jnanam. He explains about the lower self and the higher self, and it is an extension of the chapter itself. In many ways, it's like an advertisement, the chapter, first 3 shlokas, to everything that is coming up, not only the 9th chapter, but also beyond. Okay, so we'll chant the first shloka. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Athanavamodhyayah Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam Tute Guhyatamam Idam Tute Guhyatamam Pravakshyamyanusuyave Pravakshyamyanusuyave Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam Yajñatva Mokshase Shubhat Yajñatva Mokshase Shubhat. So, Idam Tute Guhyatamam. Idam, this. Okay. Every word is actually very powerful here. For us, the word idam, this, okay, great. What is that? That's how we would go. But he will tell us what is that idam he's going to talk about. Idam tute. Okay, it is guhyatamam. It is an extremely a secret thing that we are talking about. And pravakshyam anusuyave. Anusuyave, that is the word that he uses to describe Arjuna. Okay. Now, anusuyave, suyave, which basically means somebody who constantly finds an argument or a fault with something, just for the sake of argument. Sometimes you have people who are arguing, right? So here he's calling Arjuna as anusuyave, somebody who has now come to a point. If you remember, we have gone through this journey where in the 3rd chapter, in the 5th chapter, Arjuna would always ask questions. But of course, his questions were all very sincere. He really did not have a major doubt. Maybe in the 3rd chapter, he had a little bit. But by 5th chapter, he was already quietening down. And you see Krishna as a very patient teacher trying to explain. And now you can see somebody, Krishna, who was like his friend, his boyhood friend, has now rising up slowly and slowly and slowly in the eyes of Arjuna as a teacher, So Krishna now takes the time to tell Arjuna, hey, Arjuna, you are now asking me without any question. You are completely, you don't have any objections. And that is the word keval, which I don't think, it's already an archaic word. I don't think anyone uses the word keval. It's a very British word here. But it kind of gives you in one word exactly what Krishna wants to tell Arjuna, that, hey, Arjuna, you are an anusuya, which is, you are somebody who are completely accepting. You're a person who doesn't really have any kind of objections. I mean, in the sense, your mind is already so clear, so pure. And then he's saying Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam. We'll actually go through this each line by line, word by word, actually, at least. Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam. So you will understand what is knowledge and what is wisdom. Okay, they are two different words, knowledge and wisdom. So jnanam is knowledge, vijnanam is wisdom. So you need both of them. And yet jnatva moksha se ashubhat. So by knowing which, yet jnatva, and that is, if you remember our Sanskrit classes, that is one form usage, jnatva, moksha se ashubhat. So he explains what is the goal, which is moksha, and then not just moksha, now you know what is your final goal, moksha, but ashubhat. Ashubhat already, indicates something which is inauspicious, right? Now, what is inauspicious? Here he's trying to explain that, which we will see in the next couple of things. So let's start with the word guhyatamam. Okay. Why does he use the word guhyatamam? It's uttama. Uttama means, all of you who are learning Samskrita Bharati, every time they use uttama, or all those words, right? So he is not just using the word, secret. He's actually, and not even using the word, which is even more secret, but he's saying, using the word, the complete, the most secret, that's where he's going to tell us. So when you think about these three levels of secret, on one level itself, I mean, let's look at, normal people who are there in the world, okay? How many people are really coming to Bhagavad Gita? People may say, oh, Gita is like way out of my reach. I mean, people have not even heard what Gita is, right? So in that sense, Gita is a kind of a secret for them, okay? So first, people who are very ambitious, who are thinking that, happiness lies, or pleasure, they equate pleasure to be happiness. And they think that happiness lies if I earn more and more and more. And, if I eat in the best restaurants, all that, right? So for that person to come to the very first level, he has to go through like the first 6 chapters, right? Where he has to use karma yoga. First, karma yoga to grow. So that itself is a secret. He doesn't know that the secret in improving himself lies in karma yoga. So that is one level, which actually deals with, first he has to understand that he's not the master of the universe, but all the people together. So he has to first understand the laws of the universe, which is dharma. What is dharma? And then he has to practice that. So that is the first level. So the karma yoga describes a knowledge by which he can actually fulfill the same desire, what he's looking for, but he's doing it in a way that he's of service to the community. So that is the first secret that he has to learn. Then the next one is he needs to actually understand that this knowledge is there already in our Vedas, in our Upanishads, and this whole 6 chapters that we are doing here, which is that aspect of developing that connection to the higher. And that connection to the higher is through what we call as the upasanas, Now, upasanas, mind you, are really not pujas or anything. Pujas also, we actually look at it in the form of karma yoga, because it is, pujas are done to fulfill a desire. But upasana is where I'm actually looking at the entire world and I'm like, wow, is this really the different forms of Ishvara? So that aspect is the secret, which is even more. But the most important secret is where you're going even beyond this whole world of names and forms. And that is why it is the most secret, guhyatamam. So that is what Krishna wants to tell Arjuna. So that is why he's calling this as guhyatamam. Okay. And now let's look at these words, vijnana sahitam. So vijnanam, like we said, is wisdom, and jnanam is knowledge. So combined with practical knowledge. So it is Of course, very important for me to know that this is a phone and it does all these things. It has got all these apps, everything. But what good is it if I do not know intelligently if I can use it? You know, that's the word is intelligence. And intelligence is where I know that excessive use of the phone can harm me, but the right way of using it can really help me also. So that is why it's called as Vijnana Sahitam. I mean, just like how, a farmer will not necessarily sow a seed at a time when he knows there's not going to be any rains or whatever, right? So that intelligent sowing is important. Intelligent usage is important. So that is the idea behind what he's saying, is that we all have come into this world and we've come with this body, mind, intellect, but are we really leading an intelligent life? That is the idea. In order to lead an intelligent life, I need to know my connection with the world. I need to know that aspect of who is really, that I'm part of this big, cosmos. And the master, who I thought I'm the one who's controlling everything. Actually, I'm part of the bigger picture and the entire thing. If I have that kind of a knowledge, if I have that kind of an intelligence, that kind of a wisdom, then it will really help me to see the bigger picture. And guess what? That will also help me to avoid any kind of sorrows. Simple thing is, I think I've given this example in a study group too, when I'm driving to the study group, I used to see this on, if the traffic is going really slow, if my mind is tired, then I will immediately think that, oh my God, why is this traffic so slow? And I can get frustrated. But on the other hand, if I realize that this traffic is going slow because there's probably an accident somewhere, there is not a whole lot that I can do about it. And if I think that way, then I'll be able to find better ways to come to my destination, So that is in a very, very simple way. And that is because I'm connecting myself with all the other cars and doing it. Now, if I take this in a much bigger way, if I see something which is not right, like the simple thing right now, people are all saying that in Kerala, there's a lot of COVID cases, and I have to pay attention to that. I cannot say that, no, I won't get COVID, that kind of thing. I have to pay attention to it. I have to be careful that even if I get it, I don't spread it to others. All this is having the knowledge, but combining it with my connection with the entire world. And that is what this Vijnana Sahitam is in a very simplistic way. But here he's trying to show that how this connection in a much, much bigger way, by connecting myself to that Ishvara, is going to help me even more, So that is one part of it. Now, to Meena's question, why is this knowledge considered to be so very royal? Well, the reason is because it's extremely subtle, extremely subtle. We cannot grasp this knowledge, like even this connection that I was trying to say, with everything around me and connecting it this one. It is extremely sort of hard for us to figure it out on our own, We really, really need somebody who is so great a teacher like Krishna to tell us about these things. And it's not enough if Krishna has said it, right? So we have then all the Guru Parampara, the great Mahatmas who have taken that knowledge, which is there only in 2 lines, and then trying to break it up and break it up and break it up and bring it to to where we are today, So that is why he calls this, that's why it's an extremely subtle knowledge, and it's something that hard to figure it out. And it's, you need so many aspects to this. Number one, so if you think about it, to be very successful in a very, very simple sense, me as an employee have to have the right qualifications. Then my ecosystem has to be such that should allow me to flower. My boss should be someone who should recognize my talents, right? All this we say is success in a small way. Now we are talking about me progressing through at different levels. As I progress it, this knowledge which is given to me, which in a very simple workspace would be given in a manual or something, becomes even more subtler and subtler for me to understand, that connection with the whole thing. So that is why he says that, you have to have the right qualification also. So that is why it is extremely subtle. And what is the result of this knowledge? The result of this knowledge is that it's going to take me, by combining this practical knowledge with this wisdom, it's actually going to take me to freedom from all sorrow. Now we may say, how is that possible, right? I mean, does that mean that my life is always going to be great? And again, such a beautiful thing to hear for the beginning of the new year, So the idea being here is sorrows will be there. See, again, our mind is so conditioned always to to get something always good, everything has to be sweet, everything has to be, only then I'll be able to take it, right? But here, freedom from all sorrow indicates that even when something negative is happening to me, I don't see it as negative. That's the whole idea. Because everything ultimately is in my mind, and everything, we know that every experience has got both sides. Every experience. When I know that I'm really, really enjoying something, I mean, simple example we always give is gulab jamun, right? When I know that it is very sweet, I know that thing is in my mind. If I can stop at that point, I'm good. But if I take 2 or 3, that same sweetness now gives me a lot of sorrow, right? So the understanding that sorrow and pleasure that I'm meeting, they're all always there, but it's in my mind as to how I resolve it, how I reconcile to it. And that is what is the freedom that we're talking about here. So that aspect of it, he is saying that it's freedom from all sorrow. And one concept I wanted to introduce here, we have talked about this long time ago. And this is again to show how in this one particular shloka, as I said, there's so much packed in it. And it talks about first the student, which is the adhikari. And here Krishna is telling Arjuna, hey, Arjuna, you are Anusuyave, you are a person who have the qualities to receive this. And then what are we talking about? We are talking about that knowledge, which is the royal secret, which is the knowledge of Brahman. And what does it give you? If you have this knowledge, it will actually give you a purpose. The purpose to free you from things that we get attached to or get affected by. And then the last one, Sambandha Pravakshyami, the Krishna is saying, which is connected. So the Prayojanam, what he's saying is directly connected to the purpose for why I'm studying this text. So that Sambandha. So Adhikari, Vishaya, Prayojana and Sambandha are 4 things which are Anubandha Chatushtaya, we call Chatushtaya 4 of them, which really establishes a connection to a particular text. So Bhagavad Gita, for example, has got all these 4 things, and in one shloka itself, you see this. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well. Okay, so going back to the first shloka again, it's idam tute guhyatamam pravakshyam anusuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yajnatva mokshase ashubhat. So you see, ashubhat basically is referring to this world which is we perceive as something which is giving us sorrows, but even things which are happening in a very good way, we have to be in control of. And then moksha, we get that ability to detach ourselves through in this world itself. And then Jnanam, by giving us the knowledge of Brahman, Jnanam, Vijnanam, which is the wisdom on how to live in this world, Sahitam. Sahitam means together. And then Pravakshyami, Aham Pravakshyami. That is what Krishna is saying. I'm telling you, hey Arjuna, who are so pure-hearted, who's completely ready to listen to me. I'm going to tell you about idam, that knowledge. I'm just going to tell you. So this is the whole shloka. Any questions? Any thoughts that you want to?
Hari Om. This is just for me to recap that I understood this correctly. The knowledge that the royal knowledge that the Lord is going to give us in the next shloka is going to remove is going to help us in being being calm and without any reaction, without good or bad, no effects, nothing. Everything is going, whatever happens, good or bad, we are going to be at the same level,
equipoise or
equipoise. That is what this essence of this sloka is, right?
Correct. Exactly. So here's in this shloka, I mean, I gave a little more than what the shloka is meaning, but in a sense, what you said is absolutely right. So, which is, we always talk about world peace. We talk about being peaceful ourselves. And we always talk about that being the most important gift that we can give ourselves, right? And
Yes.
we think that calmness, the peace will all come maybe when I grow old, when all my kids are out of the house and I have enough money, I'm going to sit, I'm going to enjoy, and I'm going to be happy. That's how we think. But immediately what happens, this mind cannot really stay by itself. It has to have something or the other worrying. So some worry or the other will come. And as we grow older, unfortunately, one thing that happens is our ability to be alert is not there. So it tends to focus on memories, and that gives us a lot of worries and sorrows and everything, right? So that disturbs our peace. So here, the secret that he is trying to say is, how can we try to focus on that? And by focusing on that, that is why that idam, that focusing on this, as he says, by focusing on that, how I can completely distract myself from the other things which is not important. But then it is not very easy for us to focus on this, because my mind is always focused on these things which are giving me sorrows. So how do I resolve that in my mind, that these things which are giving me sorrows are actually of no consequence, So that part of it he's coming to. So you're absolutely right. The idea is trying to get into that equanimous or equipoise state.
Thank you.
So you will see, like, this chapter is really very powerful from that point of view, where he really goes into explaining more about. So, the idea is for all of us, we are a creature of habit. we will go towards something only if that is useful for me. So in this chapter, he will make it in such a way that we will say, yes, ultimately, this is all that I need. And once my mind is convinced that this knowledge is all that I need, then I will start to develop my devotion, or I'll start developing, or my mind will start focusing on that knowledge. So that is the beauty of this chapter. Really, he goes much deeper into it when compared to 8th chapter. So in 8th chapter, he explains about that person who is focused on having a next life. It's about the Krama Mukti, part of it he talks about. But here, he slowly brings us back to where he left off in the 7th chapter. In the 7th chapter, he talked about Jivan Mukti. So he's coming to that aspect of Jivan Mukti, but he also takes us through the step process of that focus on Ishvara. Who is that Ishvara? So we'll do the second shloka next week, second and third, and one more. And we'll stop here if there's no other questions. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shantihi. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So I just want to say this number for me is not working right now for the last 10 days. I'll send my India number to those of you who don't have it. And that's why I asked Sridhar ji to put my India number for the Bhagavad Gita group. So I just want to let you know that until I get my phone fixed. So the phone that is connected to it conked out completely. See you then, everyone. Hari Om. Have a Shubharatri.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you so
Hari Om.
much.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
See you
Hari Om, thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
See
Happy
you.
New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year. See you.
Hari Om.
Bye.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.